Hi everyone, and welcome to the second session of the Fair for Research Software RDA group, the kickoff meeting. We'll give it a couple of minutes to ensure that everyone can join, and then we can start this discussion. And in the meantime, you should be able to see in the chat window both the set of the slides as a link that we will be going through, as well as a link to a Google document where we will be keeping collaborative notes. I will revisit that in a second, but please try to see if you can access that. Right, so we are by my clock at least 2 minutes past the starting point of this session, so I'll get started. So my name is Fotoopoulos. Together with the rest of the people on the call, I am a member of the steering committee for the Fair for Research Software RDA group. And the purpose of this session today is to provide some context of what we have been doing so far, and what is our plan moving forward, and to encourage everyone here to get more involved and provide us with their own perspective on this matter. So a few quick housekeeping notes before we start the proper. You can find the links to the slides and to the collaborative notes already on the chat window. Paula was kind enough to already link it once more. But if you scroll up in the chat window, you will see the welcome message where it contains both the slides URL and the collaborative notes URL. So this session is the second one. The first one took place a few hours ago, aiming to get people to be a more convenient time zone from people from the US. However, we are going to be covering the same subjects, and we want to ensure that all people from around the world are included in this discussion. In terms of the meeting etiquette, as you probably saw so far, all participants are in listen-only mode. Please feel free to add your questions directly in the questions box. There is, if you look at the webinar control panel, you should be able to see a question box where you'll be able to add information there, to add your questions. If you want to speak, please raise your hand. There's a button on the attendees list, so we will be able to see that, and we can give you the floor to actually talk. A final point that you should be aware of is that this session is being recorded and will be made public, so be aware of that aspect as well. So this is the agenda. The housekeeping part is already done, so we're going to move forward with the welcome introduction and a quick ice-breaking event. Then we will go through the different subgroups that we have put together for the Fair for Research Software RDA group. And then we will hopefully have a few minutes to get questions from all of you here, and to ensure that everyone is happy and knows what we are aiming to do. So in terms of the welcome introduction, I will encourage you to go to the Google document with the collaborative notes. Again, if you look at the chat window, you should be able to see the link there. And I want to ask everyone here to take the next 5 minutes and put down your names, if you like, as well as the reason that you are participating in this call. So in other words, what are your expectations? What would you be more interested in finding out about the Fair for Research Software RDA group? I'll mute myself for the next 4 minutes, and then we'll continue on with the presentation. All right. Thanks. I see some very interesting points there, and I believe that a lot of those interests are quite well aligned with different subgroups that we have identified. So we look forward to your ideas on that. So I'll move on with the introduction now and provide some context of what this working group is. So essentially, the Fair for Resource Working Group was put together as a joint RDA working group, Force 11 working group, and a Research Software Alliance task force. It started as a discussion a few months ago, and essentially now it's moving forward as a more formal RDA working group. More about that in a second. The main purpose of the Fair Voices Software Working Group is to ensure that there is a coordination for a lot of discussions that are being led by the community around fair principles for research software. Essentially, the main discussions are what is the definition of fair principles, how you can apply them to research software, and ensuring that those definitions and best practices are actually being adopted by the different members of the community. Over the past few months, we have been meeting in a regular basis, and we drafted a case statement for RDA. You can see the link here, which is now currently under review by the Technical Advisory Board of RDA. As soon as this is accepted, the formal working group in RDA will be formed, and we will continue with the work itself. So what is the aim of the Fair for Research Software Group? There are three main outcomes. All of them are planned to be delivered in 6-month intervals. The first is essentially a document that's going to be jointly developed with the community, and we will define what would be the fair principles for research software. I will try to revisit all of them in the context of the different subgroups so that I provide a bit more of a context of what we are aiming for right here. Based on this document, the second one is a document providing guidelines on how to actually apply these fair principles for research software. And the idea here is to rely on the existing frameworks. And the deadline for that from the starting point of the formal RDA working group is in 12 months. And finally, in 18 months from the beginning, the third outcome would be a document summarizing the definition of fair principles what would be the best implementation guidelines, and some adoption examples. So basically the culmination of the efforts so far. In order to ensure that this work is done, because as you can hopefully see, it's a bit of ambitious, given the extent and the broadness of FAIR for its software. In order to do that, we want to start building towards deliverables. And we have a set of subgroups defined, and different leads of these subgroups will be discussing about them in the next few minutes. These subgroups will run from July to September 2020, and you can join any of these subgroups using the link you see here. If you click on the link, that is also available in the chat window, I think, you can indicate your preference to any of these subgroups that you'd like to join. And of course, you're more than able to join more than one, depending on your availability of time and how much of the involvement you want to have in this effort. Of course, you're more than able to indicate interest on all subgroups, but this also means that you are going to have a lot of time actually dedicated for that. We will be giving this link again by the end of the presentation of the subgroups, so just bear this in mind. So I'll start with a description of the first subgroup. This is led by Daniel Katz. Unfortunately, this time is quite brutal for people from the US, so I will be presenting on his behalf, but this is led by Dan. So the first subgroup is essentially a first look at the FAIR for its software. In other words, the main aim is to review the first principles and try to examine them in the context of research software, but instead of relying on pre-existing work, try to work directly from scratch. So try to see this with a fresh eye if at all possible. This means that this particular subgroup should not include members, authors of the Recent Towards FAIR Principles for its software paper, because the main idea is to see whether in the 9 months since this article was first submitted, if there has been any changes in the perception that we have of how the FAIR principles can be adapted for its software. In the same context, members of these subgroups will also avoid studying that particular paper. Again, the main goal is to see seeing the FAIR principles with a completely fresh eye, if at all possible. The goal is to determine what part of the FAIR principles can be applied as are to the research software. And if you recall, the FAIR principles are 4 high-level goals and essentially 15 principles grouped under these goals. And the second question is, which of those FAIR principles do not apply to research software at all? So these are to be excluded. And a final point, which is the more critical one, is which of those FAIR principles could be applied to research software, but with an actual different definition, or a different way to specify those FAIR principles. So essentially, the output of this subgroup is to have a new list of the FAIR principles for research software, which are based on the FAIR principles for data. The plan for this subgroup is to work using Google Documents and a video call every couple of weeks. This is to be scheduled. And I will again encourage people to join by indicating their interest in this particular Google form. The link is available here. And with that, I will give the floor to Mateusz for subgroup 2.
Okay, hello. My name is Mateusz Kuzak. I'm a community manager at the Netherlands Sea Science Center. And I'm leading the subgroup 2, which is about FAIR work in other contexts. So in this subgroup, we want to look into recent or ongoing research around FAIR principles, how they apply to different type of research objects, workflows, computational notebooks, everything that is relevant for research software. So we want to make an overview of this ongoing research and the results from that. And we want to look into the commonalities, the differences, the specific challenges, in the hope that it will help us better define principles for research, first principles for research software, and also it will guide us in defining the how do we advise or give guidelines for implementation of the FAIR for research software. And there's a link to the Google Doc that describes more about it. And please, if you want to join, we're especially interested in people who are involved in research around FAIR for workflows, notebooks, research objects, training materials. So go to the forum and join our group. Thank you.
Fotis, can you move to the next slide, please?
Hi everyone, I'm Moran Greenpeter. I'm going to lead the third subgroup, which is about research software definition. It's not really taking on the big task on defining research software. It's more of scoping this working group outputs to what is the research software we are considering, because there are many different definitions of research software, and software plays different roles in research. It can be a tool, it can be a research.
I think I've moved to the next slide.
Result. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Moran.
Yes, we can hear.
Okay.
Can you?
Thank you for saying that. So it can be a research result, and it can be a research object on which analysis is done. So the aim of the group is to review these existing definitions and specifying a scope for the working group outputs. The output would be a concise community definition of research software to provide the scope for the FAIR research software principles. To join, as for the other groups, you should go to the link, the form, and participate. We will be working on the Google Doc. If you have any literature where research software is defined, it will be nice, even if you're not joining the subgroup, to go and put it on the Google Doc so we have it and we can consider it. And we are going to do the discussions on the Gitter chat without, for the moment, any calls. So that's it for our subgroup 3. Thank you.
Thanks, Moran. And now for subgroup 4, and I will give the floor to Neil.
Thanks, Fotis. I'm Neil Chuhong from the Software Sustainability Institute, and I'm also one of the members of the European Open Science Cloud FAIR Working Group. So I'll be leading subgroup 4, which is on new research related to FAIR software. And the overall aim of this subgroup is to look at all of the recent research studies, workshops, papers, etc., that have been looking at different aspects of FAIR software, particularly those which have come out in the last year or so. And so this comprises a few different goals and actions. The first one is to get together as a subgroup to identify new papers that people have seen and basically pull them together into one resource. We're going to be using the Zotero group that's been set up for this task force stroke working group, the FAIR4S Zotero group that's linked there, to help us collate and curate these outputs and also help us to summarize any lessons that we found in them. One portion of this subgroup will also be rereading the Towards FAIR Principles for Research Software paper, which collates a lot of the previous studies and research around FAIR software. And we'll then look at it again in the context of the new outputs that we've identified to see whether the state of FAIR software has changed in the last year. One of the things that we're aiming to do here is not just look at the papers that are badged as FAIR. So there's a lot of papers that are around FAIR data, for instance. There are some papers that are specifically around FAIR software. We'd also like to identify papers where the authors are looking at aspects which are clearly within the definition of the FAIR guiding principles, the FAIR foundational principles, the F, the A, the I, and the R, but may not be explicitly looking at the application of FAIR guiding principles, which, as we see in subgroup 1, have principally been identified for research data and not research software. So what we'll be doing is doing a little bit of scoping at the start of the subgroup to understand how FAIR-like a paper needs to be for it to be in scope for this subgroup. So we'll take all of this, and our aim is to determine how all of these different insights relate to the definition and application of FAIR principles around software. And our outputs here will be a reading list in Zotero and also a short report on important insights that we've gained from the new studies. We're aiming to work via shared Google Docs, email, and some video calls, which will be organized once we have an understanding of which time zones the participants of this subgroup are in. And we had a question at yesterday's webinar around whether or not there would be the opportunity to take forward these outputs as something a bit larger, like a review paper. And I think for something like that, that would depend on the amount of material that we had, whether we felt it was sufficient to write it up into a paper, and also whether we had the effort in the subgroup to be able to draft something like a review paper. So again, if you're interested in joining in this work, please fill in the form via the tiny URL link that's on the bottom of all these slides, and we'll be in touch. And I think we'll just be talking about this now, about when all of this starts. So I'll hand back over to Fotis.
Thanks, Neil. So, sorry, clicked on the link by accident. This is basically the end of the presentation part. As all the speakers said so far, if you want to get involved in any or any more of the subgroups, this is the link that you should be using. So now I would like to give the floor to you for any questions that you might have. You can feel free to add your questions directly on the question box. And if you wish so, please feel free to raise your hand, and I can unmute you and give the floor to you. But in that case, please bear in mind that the session is being recorded. So let me see if there are any questions already listed here. I don't see any hands so far, at least. All right, so there is a problem with sound, I can see. And yes, my apologies. Apparently, my internet connection is playing up today, and I have no idea why. So my apologies for the sound issues in that sense. They are definitely from my end. There's a problem with the notes link. I think this is already been addressed. Sorry, I clicked by accident.
We don't have any new questions yet. We will just wait a few minutes. Oh, there is one.
Right. How much work time do you expect group members to contribute in that 3 months period? That is an excellent question, given that time is a bit precious. First of all, the major comment I would like to make here before I ask the rest of the leads is that it's definitely up to how much time everyone can offer in the part of the subgroup. And I would expect that given a couple of hours per week would probably be a good enough contribution. Of course, more than that would be even more appropriate, more not appropriate, more welcome. But this is definitely something to be decided within every group itself. I don't know if Neil, Moran, Mateusz, Paula have another comment to this question.
I can say something with regards to subgroup 4. So with subgroup 4, because it's splitting into different tasks, there'll be opportunities at different stages through those 3 months for very varying amounts of effort. So in particular for the first task that we'll be undertaking, which is the desk review of different pieces of research towards fair software, that will be anything from, if you can spare 10 minutes in total to be able to suggest a link to a study that you think is important, or to contribute 30 minutes reviewing a paper. All of these will be very welcome. The later parts where we'll be trying to synthesize this into a short report will probably require a little bit more time, where you'll want to be able to devote an hour or two perhaps to reviewing a section in the report, or a little bit longer to write a section in the report. So I think from subgroup 4's perspective, there's opportunities to contribute anything from 15 minutes up to, as folks said, a couple of hours a week.
All right, thanks, Neil. I hope this addressed the question. Does anyone else want to have a response here?
Oh, yeah, if I may, for subgroup 3.
Please.
So I would say that we have less work than the other subgroups. So the engagement that I would ask the participant would be no more than an hour a week, if you have that. It's more a discussion that we should have on the chat and on the Google Doc by collecting the information. So I won't ask a lot of time, and the section written, the output would not be a very long output.
Thanks, Moran. Anyone else would like to comment?
Yeah, so for subgroup 2, I think it's very similar to what is for Neil's group, where we will have, so everyone is welcome to join and share their experience or their work on like specific application, or like about the notebooks. They can join a single call, and that would be like super useful already. But we will need also some work done on the report, on like collecting all this into the output documents. So that's also welcome if someone wants to join for spend more time, contribute more time to that.
Right, great, thanks. I think this question was addressed. So I see there is another question. Do people who join need to have particular experience or qualifications? Well, I can say from my side that in terms of experience or qualifications, I don't believe so. It's more of an interest to work in the context of applying the FAIR principles to research software. So people from all kinds of backgrounds and levels of experience are more than welcome to join. For me, the key ingredient, if you like, is the enthusiasm to actually work on the FAIR principles for research software. I don't know if anyone else on this panel would like to comment on that.
That sounded good, Fotis. We had a question last night as well for subgroup 4 about the scope and whether we were we were limiting the discipline experience, for instance, and concentrating just on life sciences or just on science and engineering. But the FAIR principles apply across all research domains. So I think any, as you said, any experience or interest in trying to apply FAIR principles is enough.
Excellent. Thanks, Neil. I don't see any question right on the question box. I remember I saw a raised hand. Yes, I think Maggie has raised her hand. So I will unmute you if you like. Yes, Maggie, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a very timely and very interesting initiative. I'm just a little bit worried that by working on these 4 things in parallel that you are spreading people resources a bit thin, and also because the timing, of course, is overlapping with the vacation block for a large portion of the world. So have you thought about those issues, and how, what if we are not able to really reach all these goals by the end of September?
Maggie, so I'll give a response first. So you are right in the sense that these are activities that are going to be running in parallel. At the same time, each of them try to address a different topic, and so far there are a lot of people who have expressed interest in achieving in participating in these efforts. At the same time, I also acknowledge that the summer period is usually a bit more slow compared to the rest of the year. But at the same time, this effort is to ensure that we've put down the groundwork, if you like, for the work that will officially start counting as soon as the working group is officially acknowledged as an RDA group. In that sense, having an outcome, a stepping stone, if you like, for these efforts is something that we can strive in different subgroups. So even if we have only some little progress towards this direction is going to be helpful. So that would be my response to that. I don't know if anyone else on the panel would like to add something here.
I would like to add that we are conscious about people going on holidays, and that's why we are trying to do this work asynchronously. And you can comment on the documents at any time during the 3 months. We will have specific instructions for how you do it. You do not need to attend all of the meetings, and we just encourage your participation as much as you can.
Thanks, Paula. That's excellent. Thank you for this clarification. I don't see any hands, so I hope that we've addressed your comment, Maggie. I don't see any other questions or raised hands. I think. So before we close the call then, are there any final comments from other people in this panel?
I guess one thing that I'm not sure whether people are completely clear on is the process that happens next after they've signed up for a subgroup or subgroups. Yes,
you're right. So as soon as we get the people that are interested, yes, this actually just came in also a question, what are the next steps? So as soon as we have this indication of this expression of interest, the individual leads of the subgroups will reach out to these people so that they each subgroup can start their own particular process. As you've seen in the presentation so far, all the work will probably be done, will mostly be done through Google Documents and asynchronously, as Paula said, and with occasional video calls or emails, depending on the decision per different subgroup. So in that sense, these are the next steps. There is also another question that just came in. So what is the overarching guiding goal that the subgroups are working to address? I will scroll a bit back. So this is the overarching goal of the FAIR for Research Software Group. So this is what all the subgroups are aiming for. So essentially is to define how FAIR principles can be effectively applied in research software, and to ensure that these definitions and these recommendations can be adopted by the community members. So this is the guiding goal. Each subgroup is working towards this direction, with the different outcomes of the working group being in the ones that you can see now on the slides in 6, 12, and 18 months from the beginning of the working group. So I think that was, yes, the comments. And there is another comment from Maggie that by starting now in the Northern European vacation period, a large part of the potential contributor base might be missed because it's not easy or convenient to join a group after 6 or 8 weeks that is being already active. This is a true enough statement, but at the same time, RDA tends to work in a quite open manner, so it's fairly easy to follow up the work up until a point. And given that there are specific goals and outcomes that are driving this, it should be, hopefully, it will be less of a problem for people to join at later stages. Again, I would definitely encourage everyone to join and ensure that they are monitoring at least the subgroups that they have some interest in participating to. And as Paula said, we want to be mindful of the people's time. So try to as much as time you can spare in this effort is going to be appreciated. I don't see any other hands, and I don't see any other unanswered questions. All right. Yes,
can I say
Mara.
just something? Yes, please. Thank you. I just wanted to say that the subgroups is kind of a preliminary work for the working groups outputs. So I think that even if people don't participate in the subgroups, later on there will be occasions to come along and give input into the outputs of the working group and join the discussion. So now the subgroups are divided to do this work in parallel to get as much information possible and process this information with your help. So please, if you can contribute, it will be very nice to have your participation. But even if you can't join the subgroups later on, I believe there will be other occasions to join the discussion and contribute to this definition. Because it's a community, we want it to be as large as possible to include also with having 3 organizations behind this effort. We really want it to be a community definition. So if you can't join the subgroups later on, join the discussion on the FAIR principles for research software. It's very important to have an agreement from different from different people and communities and domains. That's all. Thank you for this.
All right. Any other final comments or questions or thoughts? All right. So if not, I would like to thank everyone for joining this this session. I really hope to see more of you in the following subgroup discussions. And of course, if there are any additional questions, feel free to share them with us, and we'll try our best to address them. So thanks everyone, and have a great day or great evening, depending on where you are right now. Thanks everyone.